Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to all our listeners. You are listening to Drivetime with Sister Samia on Radio Ramadan 87.7 FM. And today on the show we have two very talented guests, and I'm extremely excited to get to know more about them and their work. But before we do that, here's a brief introduction about them both. We have Shazia Daoud. Shazia is a mother of two and a part-time artist. She has been studying the Arabic calligraphy script of Nas for the past 5 years with her Ustad Maulana Suleiman Desai, and has also managed to gain ijazah to teach what she has learned. She has so far taught a few adult Islamic arts workshops, calligraphy, geometry, biomorphic designs, and has also begun teaching basic Arabic calligraphy workshops in primary schools. We also have Safira Ali. Safira Ali is a visual artist based in Leicester. Her work explores the disciplines of Islamic illumination, geometry, and calligraphy. Her work is inspired by beautifully decorated old Quran manuscript pages and intricately decorated architecture of historic buildings, in particular the dome ceilings. Safira has studied Islamic geometry and Islamic at the Art of Islamic Pattern in London. For the past 2 years, she has been studying with an Arabic calligraphy teacher in Leicester and learning Tasib under the direction of an Islamic illumination master in Turkey. She is also exploring the traditional arts through the through a VMCTA diploma program via the Prince's School of Traditional Arts, which includes Islamic geometry, biomorphs, pigment, paint making, and Islamic illumination. Welcome to you both. Thank you very much for coming today.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having us.
Wa alaikum assalam. Welcome both again. And we'll start with you, Shazia.
Yes.
So tell us a bit more about your background and what inspired you to become an artist.
I'm a mother of two at the moment, and I'm not working, so I'm just looking after the kids at home. And
that's a job in itself.
That's a job in itself, definitely. And they've both finally gone to school full time now. So I have that time during the day. I have the 6 hours during the day while they're at school to sort of do what I want to do. And I really enjoy doing Islamic art and Arabic calligraphy. So I thought, this is the best time for me to sort of gain more skills and like create some work. And so that's what I do. Yeah, in that time, I do my artwork.
Brilliant. And Safira, so tell us a bit more about yourself as well, and how did you get started?
So my background is completely different to what I do now. So I used to be a journalist and I used to work in newspapers. And then when I got married 3 years ago and I moved to Leicester, I took a bit of time out before I started working again and started doing classes. And that's when I travelled to London and did some art classes there and the calligraphy locally in Leicester. Then COVID happened and everything went online. So I just took advantage of taking as many classes as possible and fell into what I'm doing now.
Brilliant. So before we move any further, I will give out our studio line number, which is 0116 482 2086, and we would love our listeners to get involved. And if you have any comments or any questions, you can text us or WhatsApp us on 0774 885 5055, or you can get in touch with us via the live feed of Facebook or Instagram. Right, coming back to you, Shazia, what did your artistic training start, and who with? Any additional courses you've done?
Well, my art sort of background started when I was in secondary school. I took art for GCSE and I really enjoyed it, but never really followed it through. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, I enjoyed it at school and like that's enough. And then obviously I went off to university and I studied like biomedical sciences, and that had nothing to do with art at all. But like I said, when I had the free time, that's when I decided that, I really enjoy this sort of stuff. Sorry. So when I went to, I think this all started when I went to Istanbul. I think just after I got married, I think that was our first trip. We went away and we went to Istanbul. And if you've been to the Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque and just seeing the calligraphy there and like how the mosques are decorated, I was just like, I think I was taken aback. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's incredible. And I specifically remember as a gift to myself, I bought, those calligraphy books where you get the pen with it, you get the ink with it, and it gives you sort of an outline to practice. And I remember buying one of them, and I started doing whatever calligraphy was in there, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool, like this is amazing. And I think my husband had asked me once, oh, can you do this painting for me, this canvas? It was the shape of a bird. And I think that was the first ever painting that I ever did. Really, really enjoyed it. And I think that's where I fell in love with doing Islamic art and Islamic calligraphy. And after that, nothing happened, left it for such a long time. And just in the last sort of 5 years, my husband was like, you really enjoy this. I see you doodling all the time. I see you doing all this stuff all the time. Why don't you try and do it properly? So I was like, oh, I don't know. It's not something you think about that, oh, I want to do it full time. You just think, oh, it's just something like a hobby that you do on the side. So being a bit of a legend that he is, he decided to buy me 10 Arabic calligraphy lessons with Ustad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. I was like, I'm not going to do this, like I'm pregnant. I'm not going to go to these Arabic calligraphy classes. And he was like, just go, you never know where it's going to lead to. Just go, see if you like it. So I went, and obviously from the first lesson, I was hooked. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like the way Ustad explained it all, and like, the background of how he learnt and where he learnt all his skills from and where his Ustad learnt from. So I was like, okay, this is something amazing. I really want to try it. And once I started the lessons, that was it. I was hooked. So from about 2016, 2017 is when I actually started learning Arabic calligraphy with Ustad properly. That was the Arabic Nusk script. And I've been learning it since then. So it's been about, 5 years, 6 years? I took obviously a little bit of a break when the pandemic happened. It was hard to sort of keep up with it. Classes went on. So it was just either I do it at home, because when you have the classes on, that Ustad's going to check your work.
Yeah.
You have to do the practice. But during the pandemic, I knew nobody's going to check my work. So you just kind of like fall back and like get a bit relaxed. But alhamdulillah, I started going back again and picking up on the skills. So
you've been doing it for almost 5 years. So
5 years, yeah.
How long does the learning journey take? Do you just learn as you go along, or?
It's a very slow process. I think one thing I realized when I was going to the classes, a lot of people join the classes, they come for a couple of months, a couple of weeks, and then they see how slow of a process it is. And I remember when I was learning, I was like, oh yeah, the alif, yeah, it's a straight line, bog standard, I can do this, I'll get this.
Simple.
It looks so simple, but you do not understand the amount of rules there are behind just the alif. And I'm pretty sure it took me about 6 months just to get my first alif correct.
Oh.
And that, I thought I was a patient person, but that getting that alif right after 6 months, I realized, oh my God, this is really going to teach me patience. But it's one of those things that you just have to put the work in, and you just have to be patient. And then eventually when you begin to get your letters right and you begin to get, everything correct, and it starts looking like a normal piece of work, I think that's when you feel like, okay, yeah, I'm accomplishing something, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
Definitely. Amazing. So, Safira, coming to you, what was your journey to becoming an artist, and did you always want to become an artist?
I think I loved art from when I was really young, but ended up going into journalism as a career straight after university. But when I moved to Leicester, I was looking for things to do. I wanted to take something art related and just find out what the activities were locally, and ended up joining the same calligraphy class that Shazia just spoke about now, and that's how we originally met. But I started in 2019, I think it was. That's straight after I got married, and that's where I started doing my calligraphy. And then that kind of led into other things. The calligraphy, naturally, you start looking at examples, you start seeing how it's decorated. I wanted to learn the other patterns that came with it. Started learning geometry. So I would travel to London and do some classes there with Art of Islamic Pattern.
Oh, that's dedication.
So I would go there, and once a week I would do some classes there, but just anything that I could find, I just wanted to try as much as I could, to learn as much as I could, because I just fell in love with it and just wanted to try all the different areas.
Brilliant. So, Shazia, have you led any workshops and any classes before?
Yeah, so actually just before the pandemic started, I did a 6 weeks course for ladies at Darul Urqum, and so I did like sort of the 3 branches of Islamic art. So I did Arabic calligraphy, sort of a taster session on that. We did the Islamic geometry, and we did a few of the biomorph patterns as well. And they, at the end of it, they managed to create a piece that they could take home, which had sort of all 3 elements in there. It fell sort of just in the middle of the pandemic as well. So when we started the course, then the pandemic hit, and then we had to sort of finish it like towards the end. So there was a big gap in between. But after that, I've done like a few Islamic calligraphy sessions at primary schools, which I didn't realise that they'd be quite interested in that. So I've done quite a few primary schools. When we did the In Praise exhibition, we did the children's workshop there as well. So they came and they did a watercolour workshop. So they played with watercolours, and we went through sort of the basics of Islamic calligraphy as well. So I've done a few of those, and it's been interesting, definitely.
So you mentioned that you've been learning for about 6 years,
Yeah.
and you have to have a lot of patience.
Oh,
Do you have to have the same patience when you're teaching as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think so. Especially when you're teaching children, it's a whole other ball game. Trying to keep them focused and trying to keep them interested, and at the same time sort of getting across what you want them to learn. I think that is definitely difficult. With adults, it's a lot more easier. It's a lot more relaxed. You know, you can like communicate with them easier and sort of explain to them. But with children, it's so much more difficult. But still enjoyable. Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant, excellent. So Safira, why do you feel a connection to Islamic art specifically?
I think it's just a beautiful art form. I mean, for me personally, I just love it because you open up the Quran, you see it there, you see the first page, it's just decorated so beautifully, as well as reading it, get a little bit distracted by all the patterns, but trying to work out how did this come about, how was it created? And it's just such a beautiful art form that you can't help but wonder, how could I make that myself if I had the skills to do that? That was my personal connection and why I love it so much, just seeing it in that way.
And where do you get your inspirations from? I know you mentioned from the Islamic architecture.
Yeah.
Does your heritage actually inspire you as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the amount of holidays that we've had going to Pakistan and seeing family there, and naturally you go sightseeing, so we'd go see the Badshah Mosque, we'd go to Wazir Khan and see all the patterns and the architecture, as you just mentioned there. You see all of it and how it all comes together. But just seeing the patterns and the geometry, and naturally you start wondering, how could I make that? How did they make it originally? But would I be able to recreate it? And after I've done a lot of the geometry classes, now I can look back on those pictures and try and trace it, but try and work out how could I actually create that myself, like freehand with a compass and a ruler, and working out how to do that pattern myself.
And does it make you feel a connection with history as well?
Oh, absolutely, because you're looking at what was made there hundreds of years ago, but you're going there now and seeing exactly how it looks, but it hasn't changed that
Like
much.
going back in time.
Exactly. And it's such a lovely
Must be
connection,
amazing.
yeah, to see it in person.
Brilliant. And Shazia, where do you get?
Have a blank canvas, and I really love colour, so anything colourful. So I like to take a blank canvas, paint a nice background first, whatever sort of comes to me at the time, whatever colours, whatever sort of textures. I like to paint the background first, and then what I do is I look at the background, and then I decide that, okay, I want to add Arabic calligraphy to this, because definitely I think adding Arabic calligraphy to any of the backgrounds that I've done, it just beautifies it so much more, because it's such a beautiful thing to look at. So I take the background and then I just add the calligraphy onto there, and yeah, it's just sort of go with the flow. I don't think there's anything specific. I think I was inspired a lot by my travels when I went to Spain. We went to Granada, we went to Cordoba, we went to Seville, and there's a lot of Islamic history there, especially in the Alhambra. Yeah. I'm not sure if you've been.
I really want to go there.
It's so beautiful.
It is so beautiful. We've been there, and it's
calligraphy, the geometry, like the mosaic, the patterns, the tile work. It's just all fantastic. And stuff like that, seeing stuff like that. And in Morocco as well, when we went to Marrakesh, we've been to Fez, we've been to Chefchaouen. So there's like all these places that we've been to, and you see the beautiful mosques and how they're decorated. And then you just want to create a little piece of that yourself. Do you know what I mean? So it's
get inspired.
Yeah, definitely.
So, ladies, I read an article in Leicester Mercury that recently you have both been involved in an exhibition. Tell us a bit more about that. How did that come about?
So we mentioned earlier that we'd originally met at calligraphy classes, and one of our friends that we met at those classes was Shazia from Rashida Arts, and it was actually her idea. She wanted to put this exhibition together locally, and she kindly invited us to be part of it, and in total there were 10 women artists that she wanted to feature as part of it.
Yeah, so I think her main concept behind it was that female artists, especially Islamic artists, we don't really get featured, we don't really get represented, we don't get taken sort of seriously. And being sort of like mothers and like, working as well, it's hard to sort of be taken seriously by galleries. They don't really, especially if you don't have like a traditional art background or a degree of that sort, they don't really think that, you know what you're doing, or you know what you're talking about. So it's really difficult to sort of get into galleries or get your work displayed anywhere. So she thought, if we can't sort of get in anywhere, why not do it ourselves? And she put it together sort of single-handedly. She did an amazing job. And I think we all felt like we were represented really well as well. Being female, being like, not all of us sort of do this as a hobby. We do it part-time. It's not full-time. So I think having that platform to sort of exhibit our work and showcase our work and what we're capable of doing, I think that was really, really good. Yeah, amazing.
And what was the reception like? Did you get a lot of interaction from people?
It was really positive. A lot of people came in who were interested, who just wanted to know more about the art, know more about the artists. And then a lot of people were coming who'd never had any interaction with Islamic art, so it was completely new to them, and it was just lovely seeing their interaction with it as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the main things was that we were featured on BBC News as well, which we weren't expecting.
Amazing.
Yeah, so they came, they did a whole feature, and we had a whole segment. So having something like that, having like BBC News come and feature us, I think it really showed that we did something quite amazing. And not just that, we had quite a few websites, quite a few news outlets. That
it just brings more opportunities and opens new doors, doesn't it?
And it's sort of, I think it does, there's a lot of people out there who like Islamic art, and I've had so many people at the exhibition say to me that, oh, you know what, I really love doing stuff like this, but I just never thought of, sort of pursuing it, because you don't really think anything will come out of it. But it's done it. Even though
I didn't think it was something that I'd be able to take on. I said, a lot of us are in that position, but we've ended up coming to art later in our careers, but we're doing it now, and we're just proof of you can do this if you want to.
Absolutely. So, Zafira, did you go undergo any formal training
to be
become
able to do this?
Yes.
So I started with the calligraphy that I mentioned 3 years ago, still continuing with that, and then did the odd course here and there. And then during COVID, I started doing some classes with a master in Istanbul, all online. So luckily, one good thing came out of COVID that we were able to, and forming the patterns. And the parent company is Prince's School of Traditional Arts. They're based in London, but one of their outreaches is in Pakistan. And I started doing the
Assalamu alaikum. Eid Mubarak to.
So I started doing the course online with them, based over Zoom, but I'm able to do the first term of my diploma, and that was exactly what I've mentioned before, but it's formal training to be able to learn the geometry, all the art practices, the practical things of making the paint, and how to apply that.
And you mentioned you make your own paint.
Yeah.
What's the process of that, and why do you do that? Why is that important to you?
So it's important in the sense grinding it down in a pestle and mortar until you get a fine powder. Then you're washing it and getting all the impurities out. Then you put it onto a slab, a granite slab, and you can use a muller, and you're adding some kind of binder to make it into a paint. So it could be something like gum arabic, and you're adding honey to it, something to act as a glue. And then you're mulling it until it becomes a paste. And with that paste, you can put it in a shell as it would have been in traditional times. We can still do that now. Or put it in a container until it dries up. And then it becomes like a paint that you would buy in the shops now, one of those hardened paints. You just need to add a little bit of water and you can use that straight as it is. But the reason I would do that, and why they would do it as well, is that you get a connection to that paint before you start painting. So you're not going straight on the page and starting with that. You're preparing the paint, but exactly the consistency, the color, the type that you want. And then it's all that mindful practice before you even get to that painting. So
Sort of like,
cake, that's fine. But also you could get the ingredients and make that cake from scratch.
I feel like you appreciate it more.
Yeah,
when you've done it from scratch, like because I've seen that you use like handmade paper as well.
Yeah.
And then you make the paints yourself. So it's like everything in that piece of artwork is done by scratch. That's
absolutely. And then preparing the paper, using natural dyes, it could be something like one of the paintings I've done is using an avocado. So I'm using the pit of the avocado and the outside peel, boiling that for top of it.
Amazing.
That's so cool. Yes. Now, people nowadays, they like to have the avocado and toast. It's just,
Well.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
So, ladies, this is not your conventional choice of careers. So did you face any...
I think, like I said, I've got the 2 children at home. So finding time, first of all, to do it. I think take your time. And it can sometimes end up getting that self-doubt. And I think that's really bad because I think everyone can create something quite unique and there's no sort of right or wrong way. It's everyone's own expression of what they want to create. So I think even when speaking at the exhibition to a lot of the people that came in, they were like, oh, but, other people have amazing work. Or we don't feel like it's good enough compared to what's already out there. But it's, everybody is completely different. Your work is completely different. Like somebody might see your work and be completely inspired by it compared to seeing somebody else's work. Everybody's got their own sort of style. But yeah, definitely with people sort of seeing that, it's just artwork, it's not, anything amazing. It's just paintings. Okay, it's not fascinating. But I think that people not taking you seriously, I think that is what was one of the hurdles, definitely.
For me,
how about you?
Mine was more in terms of where to find the information. So I looked at the work and I knew I wanted to create it, but I just didn't know how to do it. So at that time, I just didn't know where to start. But I think one of the good things, like I mentioned during COVID, during lockdown, so many things became accessible that weren't before. And so many courses ended up going online that, even though we were stuck at home, we were able to learn and get those skills. And I think for me in particular, I just wanted to learn the skills and learn how to do it in like a traditional way. So doing something during lockdown and keeping themselves busy. And I think a lot of people have carried on with that now. So it's definitely a positive that's come out of it.
Yeah, definitely. I would like you both to hold a piece of your work and show it to our listeners via our Facebook page, and just tell us a bit more about the work that you're holding, and typically how long does it take you to do that piece of work?
Okay, so I'm going to hold it in front of my face. So this is a piece that I created, and it's for the exhibition that we were just talking about, Impraise exhibition. So this one in particular is not a typical piece that I would do. This was specifically for the exhibition. And just to describe it there, so it's a piece based on, it's inspired by a dome ceiling in Nasr al-Mulk Mosque in Shiraz in Iran. So I kind of took inspiration from that, and I used the geometry. So I analysed what I could see in a picture myself and did all the geometry. So this one is a 22-fold division, so that means
so did you actually visit there, or?
No, I didn't. So I got as many pictures. I had to I got friends to send me pictures. I paid for some pictures as well to get some clear images as much as I could. So that was just to get the geometry.
It's amazing, just the details on it, and I was just like, wow.
The actual ceiling, I took some of the flowers that were based on that, but then I kind of took my own take on it, because a lot of the flowers based in here, I mentioned that I'm learning tezib, so I used those kinds of flowers to and the way to paint it to kind of fill as much of the dome as I could, and just adapted it.
And how long did that take you?
So this one in particular, it took about 3 months on and off.
Wow.
In between doing other work as well, not just solely focused on this full time, but just the detail and the shading. That's how long I took to do that one.
3 months is a long time.
Yeah.
And you can tell by the amazing work that is, it's just
So detailed.
it's so detailed and so
detailed.
intricate. Amazing. And we'll come to Shazia now.
Yes, I'll hold up. Wait.
Do you want me to hold it up? Or?
I think it's turning the camera. It's going along with it.
Yes.
Yes,
That's
it's
perfect.
A canvas that I've done. It's sort of aqua ocean colours.
I love the colours on it.
Yeah, I thought it's very sort of peaceful colours. So by hand, where I've learnt it. So doing it properly by hand, and then having to scale it up, because with Arabic calligraphy, it's all to do with proportions. The letters have to all be proportionate to each other. So when you write it by hand, to scale it up and make sure that everything is still in proportion and where it's supposed to be, that's what makes it look sort of neat and accurate and correct. But yeah.
And if anybody out there is thinking of taking up the hobby or as a profession, what tools do you need, or what training do you need, and how can you get started on the journey?
Oh, I think definitely discipline, dedication. Like I said, like Arabic calligraphy is something that you're not going to learn overnight. There's no sort of quick fix to learn it. I mean, I know there are online courses and stuff like that, but if you want to learn it the proper way, the traditional way, it's something that can take years. Sometimes it can take up to a decade, because I've been doing the Nusk script. I've been learning the Nusk script for about 5 years, but I've not completed it. I'm still learning it. So it's taken me that long. But obviously, the more work you put in, obviously if I was to attend classes every day, or if I was to do my practice every day, which I don't, I should be doing my practice every day, but I don't. But the more work you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. So if it is something that you enjoy, and if it's something that you really enjoy, and this is what my husband says a lot to me all the time, if it's something that you love, you will find time to do it. And if it's something that you don't, then you'll find excuses.
Not to do it.
Not
so
to do
true.
it. It's, yeah, I hear that on a weekly basis as a way of motivating me, which it does, but it's true. If you do love something, you will find a way to do it, no matter what happens, whether it's in the evenings, after the kids have gone to bed, 5-10 minutes practice on the weekends, or, wherever you can find time. If you can find time, you put that work in, then you will gain the skills, and you will be able to do something with it or take it somewhere, definitely.
So you have to have the passion for it.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. A lot of people are interested in doing it. If you are interested, you just need to put in that work. You just need to do the work to be able to, like somebody else said to me, that inspiration comes to working hands. If your hands aren't working, if they're not doing something, you're not gonna be inspired to do something. You won't get inspiration just sitting there on the sofa thinking, oh, I could be doing art. But if you're actually doing something, you're actually trying to create something, then you'll be like, oh, light bulb moment. Oh,
Yes.
let me try this. Let me try that. So, yeah.
And how about you, Safira? What would you say?
I would say just get a sketchbook and start drawing, and just draw as much as you can, paint as much as you can, whatever you like the look of. Just try and replicate it to kind of see how they made it, but do your own version of it. And there's plenty of courses out there. You know, if you want to just search on YouTube, there's plenty out there to get you started. If you want to have the technical skills, definitely look up a course and, you know, enroll in that to find out the traditional way of doing things. But otherwise, the way I started, I would just go to museums and with a sketchbook, just sit there and just draw what I could see. Any patterns that I could see, that's kind of what I was attracted to, and just try and replicate it. I didn't know how to do it, but I just liked the look of it, and yeah, just start from there.
And you said you find it quite difficult to get information when you started. So what would you say to anybody who's thinking of embarking on this journey?
I would just say Google it, and the information is more widely available now. I think at that time, I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what I really liked the look of. But I think, you know, a few years on from there, there's so much information and freely available. You know, you can look on social media. There's things on, you know, YouTube, loads of tutorials there. So definitely have a look and just have a go and see what you like the look of, and then you can just focus more on that.
Amazing. Okay, so Shazia, what are your future plans? What does the future hold for you? Would you like to take this further? Or?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think where I did a lot of the workshops during the exhibition, I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed that people enjoyed it as well. The children enjoyed it. So I think I've had a lot of people come up to me saying that, oh, you need to do more of these workshops. We really want to try it. We want to try the Arabic calligraphy. So I will, inshallah, be trying to put together some workshops. Probably 6-week courses, or you know, weekly stuff or weekend stuff. So that's on the horizon, still in the works. So nothing out there yet, but you know, if you keep up with me or follow me or whatever you do on Instagram, then I'll be putting out updates soon. Probably after Eid, probably after Ramadan's finished. Yeah.
Amazing. How about you, Safira?
I think we just got a taste for it during the exhibition, and we started doing workshops, and for a lot of us it was the first time doing it and trying that out, and exactly the same, realized it wasn't as daunting as we thought it was going to be. I've got a couple of geometry workshops booked in Cassart in Birmingham, so that's coming up in the summer, but looking for some more local venues to be able to do that, to provide it in Leicester as well.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Okay, so what do you think the future of Islamic art looks like, and what can we do to keep the tradition alive?
Well, I think that's the thing. Islamic art is a very traditional sort of thing.
How can we encourage our next generation to take up as a profession?
It's a bit difficult. You have to sort of want to do it, because you can't sort of force people to do it. I think seeing in mosques and seeing it around the world, if the youngsters, if they do go out and they do see it, I think they will be really inspired the same way that we were. And you just want to sort of, you know, like art itself and Islamic art, I think it beautifies Allah, isn't it? That's the main point of it. You want to remember your creator. A lot of Islamic art is based around that. It's to sort of remind you, especially when it comes to sort of like the biomorphic patterns, the repetitive patterns, the geometric patterns, and how neat and precise like Arabic calligraphy is. It all sort of leads back to the creator and the one who created everything. So I think like a lot of people, when they're connected to the religion, they want a means to express it. They want a means to express how beautiful the religion is. And I think that's where Islamic art comes into it. And that's a lot of the Islamic artists. That's why they want to do it. They want to show the world that Islam is beautiful, and the main way that they do it is through Islamic art, and that's how they used to do it back in centuries ago. That is how one of the ways that they spread Islam was through the beauty of it. So yeah.
And Safira, what do you think? Do you think that it should be encouraged at schools? How can we keep it alive?
Oh, definitely. I mean, just seeing from the exhibition, and we had some classes where there were some school children who came, see or go out to see themselves, but seeing it in that setting and just seeing their enthusiasm for it, they were definitely interested, and we had a lot of good comments about it, and they wanted to try it, and a lot of them booked on to some of the children's workshops as well. So there's definitely...
And parents want their kids to be an artist. It's always like, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be an engineer.
That's the thing.
So we don't really encourage art.
I think it's sort of a cultural thing, isn't it? It's that parents prefer that, we want you to be a doctor, a lawyer, or something that's sort of more guaranteed income, I think it is. I think that's what sort of makes parents a bit more like, we don't want you to be an artist, because it's not a guaranteed income. It is something that you have to work hard at, and there can be times where we don't make anything from it, but we are still creating the work. But I think definitely it's not a conventional career, but I do think it is an important one. I think it allows people to be creative. It's a way of expressing themselves.
It is,
and
indeed.
and I feel like it's something that it's very meditative. I find it very meditative. Like when I'm creating artwork, I could be doing it for hours, and I'm someone who I don't know about the rest of you, but I get very hangry. So if I've not eaten, I get really angry, right? Besides in Ramadan, obviously. But when I'm creating a piece that I'm really enjoying and I'm painting, I could be there for hours. I could have not had a sip of water, not eaten for about 6-7 hours straight, doing my artwork, and I've not even realised. That's how engrossed I get into it. That's how I, get lost into the work. And I've realised a lot of people are finding that painting and doing artwork is really good for sort of mental health as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very calming, and it allows you to sort of process your thoughts while you're doing it. So I think it's really good in that sense as well.
And do you want to actually, when you start something, do you want to see it finished? Is that?
Having that, when you've got that idea in mind, so having it from start to finish. Especially like the one that I created for the exhibition. Before I created it, I knew what I wanted it to look like and had the vision in mind. That was the only piece that from before I even started it, I knew exactly how I wanted it to look. And doing the process and completing it and having it look and having it turn out how I had envisioned it, I think that was really satisfying, and I felt like I accomplished something really good there. So yeah, it's really satisfying in that sense.
Excellent. And Safira, did you get much family support to do what you wanted to do?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they back me 100%. And my mum, bless her, she's probably listening now, but she always says to me, you should have the confidence to do this. And, I think the best thing you can have is your family supporting you and backing you in that sense. But sometimes you don't see it. You're working on it all the time, and sometimes it takes a fresh pair of eyes to have a look at it and see it in a different way and give you that kind of encouragement. But yeah, she's definitely my number one fan. She always
that's so brilliant. That always makes it easier, doesn't it?
She's got a copy of all my pieces at her house.
Excellent. So, ladies, before we go, I would just like to ask both of you, do you have a favourite piece?
Oh, mine's definitely
of your work.
The one is called The Exalted, and it was based on Prophet Yunus's story of when he was in the belly of the whale, and I created that for the exhibition. I think that definitely is my favourite piece, 100%, yeah.
Mine's going to be the one that I showed you earlier, just because the amount of time I spent on it, just shading all the flowers and all the analysing I did beforehand, I just appreciate it, having spent that amount of time on it.
And that took you about 3 months?
Quite a bit of time.
Wow. Amazing. So you have to have patience. and passion to create that piece
because
of work.
it's so easy to rush that and try and get to the end of it, but you would end up ruining it. So you do have to be very patient and take your time with it.
Right. I don't know where the time has gone, but we are coming towards the end of our program. So thank you very much, both. Thank you for coming to the show, and I hope the listeners have enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed presenting this program. Jazakallah khair for listening, and wishing all our listeners a peaceful and blessed remainder Ramadan. Thank you very much again, and thank you to both my guests. Really appreciate you coming in.
Having us.
Thank you.